Wario's a really weird guy. You know, most of his appearances have kind of been showing up in GBA games. He was originally spun as kind of being, you know, Mario's nemesis. But over the years, Wario has become less of Mario's nemesis and more of just kind of a greedy, wacky treasure hunter that's, you know, always getting into trouble. This time around, he's gotten into trouble. His greed, of course, getting him in trouble yet again. He's stolen an evil black jewel that has awoken from its slumber and turned all of his money into monsters. So Wario, wanting to get his green on, get his cash back, sets out on a quest to defeat these monsters and basically, you know, reclaim his treasure hoard. Wario's game is broken up into 4 different worlds. Each of these worlds contains 2 stages as well as a boss stage. In addition to that, each stage ends with a boss fight, so you're really getting 3 boss fights per world. The levels are actually pretty large, and the basic gameplay is Wario running around in a platform fashion, but not in your kind of standard 3D platform mode. It's actually more of a fixed camera platforming where you know, the camera will be positioned from a specific angle, and you know, Wario will be running around. So there's a lot of left and right movement and a lot of up and down movement too. But for the most part, it's side-to-side action. The camera doesn't rotate around and follow Wario from the back or anything like that. And generally, the camera actually works pretty well. The goal of each level is to basically get to the end of the level with a set number of gems. The number of gems you need to progress varies from level to level. The first level only requires you to collect 3 of them, but later on you have to get 5 and 6 and much larger numbers. You get these gems in puzzle rooms that are found. Basically, you'll find glowing trap doors around the floors of the level, and you can power bomb your way through those and get down to these little puzzle areas. Some of them are little rooms with, you know, moving platforms you have to jump around on, but then some of them are actually much larger kind of open areas that are actually a lot like the block puzzle levels in Super Mario Sunshine, where you would lose your water pack and have to run around on your own. It's actually a lot like those, you know, just kind of blocks floating in space, and you having to get to the end to get one of these gems. When you're not in these puzzle areas trying to get these gems, you'll be fighting creatures. Many of them actually just take 1 punch to knock out, but there'll also be larger variants of those creatures that'll take 3, and that'll actually stun them. And once you have stunned a foe, you can pick them up and throw them. That'll usually do away with them for good. You can also spin them around like a wrestling move, kind of giant swing thing, which is good because it'll actually clear out, you know, the entire area of enemies. And then finally, there's the spinning pile driver. Basically, just jump up in the air, hit the R trigger, and Wario will put the guy down, start spinning around, and slam him to the ground. And as we all know, you know, games with spinning pile drivers already have, you know, one major thing going in their favor. The levels are quite large in Wario World, so you actually be, you know, going around and beating up a lot of guys. There's a lot of fighting to be done, but the enemies don't really change from world to world. The basic look will. So you'll get to the snow level, and you'll be fighting snowmen and snow dinosaurs and snow this and snow that. Or, you know, you'll get to the circus level and you'll be fighting, you know, clowns and elephants. But they all really have the same basic attacks, so there's really only a handful of creatures to fight in the game. The game's boss fights are pretty cool, and they're all really unique. You'll face a variety of creatures. You have kind of a sandworm kind of guy. You'll have a clown that bounces around on a giant ball, a 2-headed dragon. And all these encounters are actually really cool looking, and you know, really kind of you beat these bosses in unique ways. So it's a really nice touch. However, the boss fights, much like the rest of the game, are actually insanely easy. The game as a whole, you know, even with the levels being kind of longer than your average platform game levels, they're never really difficult. You know, you pretty much just learn the attack patterns of these, you know, 4 to 7 creatures that you kind of encounter over and over again. And once you've done that, then it's just a matter of exploring the level, finding these gems, getting to the boss, beating the boss, and moving forward. This would be fine if you know, there were a lot of levels to the game, but there are really only 8 levels, so you can actually plow through this game, you know, in 4 to 6 hours with no trouble at all. There's very little consequences for actually dying. In the puzzle stages, if you fall off the world, you actually just reset back to the beginning of the puzzle with no real consequence for doing so. In the rest of the game, running out of life basically causes the game over screen to come up, but then it gives you an option to continue for 200 coins or later on 500 coins and so on. And the game actually throws so many coins at you throughout the course of the game that you're never really hurting for continues. On top of that, when you do continue, it actually starts you immediately where you left off. So that means if you're in a boss fight, you're one hit away from victory, but then you die, you can just restart right there, get that one hit in, and keep going. So you never have to retry anything, which is, kind of a nice touch, very Akari Warriors-like. But then at the same time, there's no real consequences for dying. By the end of the game, you'll have, 10,000, 12,000 coins, and it only costs you a fraction of those to continue. So it's very, very easy to plow through the whole game. From a presentation standpoint, Wario World does well. The game looks pretty good. You'll see some textures here and there that really don't look very good, but by and large, the game has a nice charm to it. The enemy design is nicely varied, even if they do kind of attack with the same pattern over and over again. From level to level, it's unique. You see in the circus level, you'll see circus-themed monsters, and you'll hear circus-themed music. You get out in the snow, you'll hear sleigh bells, and you'll be fighting snowmen. So it does a really good job of kind of presenting a solid motif for each stage. In the end, Wario World does have a lot of charm, and there are definitely some cool things going on. Like I said, you can't completely knock any game that has a spinning pile driver in it. It's a spinning pile driver. That's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, there's nothing in this game that you can't see for just the price of a rental, and you can get through it so quickly, so easily, and the gameplay is, in the end, really quite shallow. So give it a rent, check it out. It's worth checking out, but definitely not worth full price.